There are several functions that you are going to need to recognize. Okay? In this lecture, I'm going to show you 7 of those functions, and we'll call those our library of functions. Now, when you're doing this lecture, when you're viewing this, you might want to pause and create yourself a table of values while I'm graphing these functions. Okay? It might help you understand these a little better. So let's take a look at some of these. Some of these should be review for you. Number 1, the constant function. F of x is equal to some b. Maybe f of x equals 5, or f of x equals negative square root of 2. Something like that, where b is a constant. A constant function is just going to be a horizontal line, where that horizontal line has a y-intercept of b. Okay? So, for example, if b was 2, okay, if f of x equals 2, it'd be the line 2 units up. Okay? If the function was f of x equals minus 1, it'd be the horizontal line 1 unit below the x-axis. Okay? So constant functions are nice and easy. Okay? Linear functions. Any function of the form mx plus b, you have to be able to graph. And I'm not going to take the time to do that, because you should all know how to graph a line. If not, get some help. Maybe view some of the Math 108 lectures on linear equations or the Math 143 lectures. Okay? So we have to be able to graph any horizontal line and any non-horizontal line as well. All right, a couple more. Let's do the square function. F of x equals x squared. We've done that one before. And that's our nice little parabola with the vertex at the origin. Okay? So whenever you see these symbols, f of x equals x squared, you should immediately know how to graph them. Okay? The cube function, f of x equals x cubed. Now you might want to write yourself a little table of values, give it some x coordinates, give it some corresponding y coordinates, and plot the points. Okay? So you might want to stop the tape, stop what you're viewing, put it on pause, and create the table, and then graph it yourself. But I'll go ahead and graph it for you right now. The cube function looks kind of like an S. A little inverted S, if you will. Okay? Notice the point when x is 1, the y value is 1. When x is 2, the y value is 8, etc. Okay, so there's the square. There's the cube. The square root function, we've done that one before in a previous lecture. That's kind of a half parabola on its side. There's the square root. Okay? The absolute value function. We'll go ahead and just plot a couple points. Notice when x is 0, the absolute value of 0 is 0. When x is 1, the absolute value of 1 is 1. When x is negative 1, the absolute value of negative 1 is positive 1, etc. And we get this v. There's the absolute value function. Now again, it's very important that you can graph these, because we're going to take these functions and we're going to shift them around the coordinate system. And finally, the reciprocal function. F of x equals 1 over x. A reciprocal function looks like this. Okay? Let's take a look at a couple points. When x is 1, 1 over 1 is 1. When x is 2, 1 over 2 is a half. When x is 3, 1 over 3 is a third. Notice it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. When x is a small number, say a half, 1 over half is 2. 1 over a third is 3, etc. And we can do the same thing for negative values. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at these one more time. First of all, you have to know the lines, be able to graph a line, constant, and any linear equation. Your homework will have several of these. Make sure you know the square function. It's the parabola. Make sure you know the cube. Make sure that you know the square root function, and the absolute value function is the v, and the reciprocal function. That's our library of functions, and these are functions that I will refer to, and so you have to know how to graph them.